You get in, the door almost feels as heavy as the bonnet and the boot. Big, heavy duty. And there's no mistaking what you are sat in here at all. Very much BMW from the period. So, switch it on. Yeah, 40,700 miles. And just starts. Just a very subtle noise there. Very quiet, very refined. All the buttons, they're all a nice press, they're all a decent size, very intuitive when you first come in here. And I'll just select the relevant ones. Right, so we'll drive out, make sure there's no handbrake. Is there any handbrake on this or not? Did you put handbrake on or not? Push it, pull it. Is that it? Cool, okay. You'll join us in a few miles once the engine's warmed up. So the very first impressions you get after just a few miles in this E38 is refinement and how quiet it is. Double glazing the windows, feels opulent luxury. Cannot believe this is 25 years old. I can hear very few squeaks and rattles or nothing. It seems to be hush quiet. In fact, even the engine is very, very muted. You don't really hear it much. Rides the road really, really well. Probably helped by having relatively small alloys at only 16-inch and that quite high profile of tyres. So we'll just take it through this left and just open it up very slightly. And the first time now, just starting to hear that V8 starting to pull away. There's a lot of weight though it's got to overcome first on this little drag up this hill. Driving really, really nicely. Steering is nicely weighted. It actually feels like there's plenty of feedback coming through as well. It's not what you would get in a more modern day luxury car where it would be, you'd be far more removed. You still feel like you're driving this car. And we're going along this relatively bumpy B road here at 60 miles an hour and it's soaking in these bumps and compressions really, really well. And absolutely no rattle or squeak anywhere. The seats feel big, squishy, and well, if you were 25 stone, you'd probably still have plenty of space in them. They're big, wide, in fact, almost as big as the steering wheel. It is a massive steering wheel on this thing. It's not until you get behind and start driving the car do you realise how big that steering wheel is. Going through a little right, left, right combination here of corners, just coasting along at 50 miles an hour here. Quite a bit of body roll as you go through there, but the steering is really delightful. And then you've just got that gearbox, just slight little kick down there, and suddenly you get back up to speed very, very quickly. Can you feel the weight? Absolutely, of course you can. It's a 7 Series. I'd expect you to. I'd want you to. But for such an old car, the quality of the ride is absolutely outstanding. You've just got to respect the weight of the car. It's not a car you want to hustle down a B road. The brakes are doing an adequate job of taking and reducing the speed quite efficiently, especially considering the weight of the car. So just coming out of this village, favourite bit of road that's heavily subsided. Again, another great test of the suspension. So 30 miles an hour, accelerate. A while, then it kicks down up to 4,000 and it picks up speed reasonable. Yeah, of course it's not a fast car. It's not what it's about when you're driving a 7 Series. Really badly surfaced, bad undulations on this bit of road, and it's riding the road brilliantly well. Just what I expect of a 7 Series. Let's talk a bit about values then. So I said at the start of this video, £105,000 is the starting price for the base current 7th generation 7 Series. And realistically, time you've put a few options on it, it's going to be deep into 6-figure numbers. And then you take this car, 40,000 miles, 25 years old. Yes, it hasn't got modern tech. Of course, it's 1990s tech. But if you can live with that, and you want something for cruising around in, £7,000 gets you into this. And if you're happy to take more miles, not quite as nice condition, you can pick him up from as little as £3,000 or even £4,000. And the best, lowest mileage, best condition are going for upwards of 10,000. Drive it, own it, use it, enjoy it. Yes, there might be the odd thing that goes wrong, the odd niggle you've got to fix, but I'll guarantee you one thing, there'll be zero depreciation. These cars will only become more sought after. And it suddenly, you just think, these big engine V8 exec saloon cars from this period offer stupendous value. How does it compare to the S-Class 320 CDI that I drove around about a year, 18 months ago on the channel? It's difficult because the conditions are different. I've driven that many cars in this period. It would be unfair of me to draw a parallel between them both. And when it comes to cars like this, every car is its own individual. When suspension is 25 years old, has it been refreshed? What's been done to the car? Because you just look at, every car has to be assessed and reviewed in its own merits. Because suspension will wear, brakes will wear, tracking could be out, or balancing, or the engine's not pulling well, or the gearbox needs service. So all these things you've got to put together. But go in with eyes wide open. A car like this, on the market today for £7,000 on eBay. So I'll knock it into sport. Let's back it off to 30 miles an hour. 30 miles an hour, average 1700 RPM, and then accelerate, kicks down, 3, 4, 5, 5.5, up shifts through this left sweeper there, and we're at just this size of legal speeds. And it just feels like it just wants to drift out on some of these sweepers because of the weight of the car, helped by this gigantic steering wheel that I'm sat behind. But it's going along at a good old speed here, for sure. Hard on the brakes there, and back off. So how do I summarise the last few hours in this E38? Cars like this at this age, as I say, are very much an individual, so I can only assess this particular one. The V8, the engine, is adequate. It's not quick, this car, it's not fast by any means, but it is adequate. You will make adequate progress. The gearbox, the 5-speed ZF gearbox, is mated actually perfectly in line with this particular car. This is a car that you don't drive at 9 or 10 tenths. You cruise around at 6 or 7 tenths, and it is in its element, keeping up with modern day traffic. It's a big car. It feels big. It is big. It looks big. That large boot that's hanging 2-3 foot beyond the rear axle. The big heavy-duty bonnet and boot and doors. It feels like it's built with 90s build quality from BMW. There's no squeaks or rattles or anything. It's just refinement and quiet and peace. And maybe that's the biggest negative for me, is I just wish I could hear a bit more of that V8, which unless you're in sport mode and starting to rev it, you don't hear. Overall, value, fantastic value. Fantastic value for money. Is it better than an S-Class? Is it better than an A8 or a Jag XJ? It's a difficult call. It's probably horses for courses. You probably take your preferred manufacturer and go with it. But what I will say, if you buy the right one, it may cost you a little bit more in fuel. It may cost you a little bit more in repairs and servicing. But you will end up with a car that doesn't depreciate at all. In fact, buy the right one, look after it, and you might have just bagged yourself an appreciating modern classic. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, as always, please thumbs up, subscribe, stay tuned. Another video next week. Thanks for watching, guys.